understand like what it is about them that leads them to wanting to be involved in social justice issues like we work on, and kind of what it's like to be an athlete in this sense, talking to Jeremy, and yeah, just to get to know people and hear more Black voices and hear more Black experiences. So with that being said, if Jeremy, if you're ready to go, hi. Firstly, hi. It's good to see your face.
I apologize for the technical difficulties. Can everyone hear me all right?
It's totally good. Give us some hearts reactions if you guys can hear Jeremy.
Imani, if you can hear me, I think they'll be able to as well.
Okay, cool. So firstly, I just want to give a short intro for those who do not know you. Jeremy plays for the Portland Timbers. What year is this? What season is this for you, Jeremy, with the Timbers?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's year 5.
Wow, that's
Um,
awesome.
I've gone
Congratulations.
from I've gone from young player to slowly becoming a veteran,
Yeah,
and
to
it
up
feels
there.
really weird.
I know it's weird to say, especially I feel like we were just in college together, like literally last year.
I know. We've
Yeah,
both grown well though. We're doing well in the league, so
doing
it's
all right.
good to see everything we've accomplished so far, both on and off the field.
Yeah, it's so true. A little bit more background on you, Jeremy, first. Jeremy was selected fourth overall in the 2017 MLS Super Draft. In 2020, just recently, you were on the MLS's back tournament Best 11. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
you also had your men's national team debut in January 2019 against Panama, which is awesome. And as you were just saying, like, I'm so excited for what you're doing in the community, the path you've taken since leaving you. Um,
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's been a long journey, but I think everyone's journey is unique in getting to where they need to be professionally and finding their voice off the field. So I'm happy with the way that it's gone so far, and I think this past year in COVID has allowed me to really reconnect with a lot of different people, as well as realign my goals and find like-minded people along the way. So really, really excited.
That's so true. That's such a good point, especially with COVID. I feel like kind of looking back on what is important to them. And I think with the birth of kind of both of our organizations, Jeremy is also a board member for the Black Players for Change, which we work with closely on our mini pitch initiative, which is awesome. Um, but beginning with you, kind of from your childhood, what I learned early on was you were born in Paris, France, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a really interesting family story. I was born in Paris. I only spent 2 years there as a kid, but my older brother grew up a little bit longer there, and we were basically there through both my parents. They grew up in Cameroon and Madagascar, and they had the opportunity to go to college in France, which was a it was kind of a sought after destination for them coming from those countries. And from there, they were able to work their way through school. And my father was able to get a good job out of grad school, which he attended while I was, I think, just born, and my brother was growing up as a kid in France. From grad school, he was able to land in DC with the World Bank. So that's how I ended up in DC. People always ask me if I have French citizenship because I was born there. I do not, so I need to clarify that. But I'm really proud of where I was born and how that's influenced me, as well as Cameroon and Madagascar.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, talking about moving from a young age, from a different country into the U.S., you definitely have like a different perspective in comparison to a lot of Americans, but a lot of Black Americans. I know I'm from Central Maryland as well. We did which is crazy. We have a great mutual friend. But yeah, like moving to Central Maryland, especially the Bethesda area. I'm from Howard County, you're in Montgomery County. It's like a pretty affluent, like predominantly white area. And so I'm just thinking about my being one of the few Black people, and I know you probably were as well, especially
Yeah.
going to Wisconsin. What was that kind of like, especially having the added experience of not being from the country originally?
I think you touched on it well, you in Howard County and being one of few black people in your class. I think in elementary school, especially once I transitioned from the French private system, which was important to my parents for me to get fundamentals in French so I could communicate with my relatives and my grandmother as well. But transition, so at that, in that community, I was one of many black people just because we had a lot of West African immigrants attending that school. Now, once I get into the American system, that's really where I start to notice, A, my English isn't as good as I thought it was. Like, yeah, I was natural. I'd gone to preschool as well in France or in America, so I had the fundamentals in English, but some of my accents or pronunciations really led to me sticking out on top of being one of the only black people in those classes. I think people always accepted me, but at the same time, what I was able to portray as I was growing up was always the exception to blackness. Like they never saw intelligent or, you know, well spoken, whatever stereotype you might see that you don't expect out of black people, they never treated that as something that could be the norm. So that's something that I internalized a lot as a young kid, trying not to get in too many fights early on, because if you get in fights, you just ostracize yourself from different friend groups. And as a child, you really take a lot of pride in just fitting in everywhere you go. So as I started to get older and older, I definitely started to pick my battles more and more, to the point where I think people started to understand that their stereotypes about black people needed to change. And it's funny that we're having this conversation now, because I think a lot of people are just finally starting to have these experiences now. Maybe they didn't have any black people or black people that felt comfortable calling them out, but yeah, it was definitely a unique experience that got a lot easier as I started becoming more and more fluent and comfortable in English.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I remember growing up, I did not want to draw any attention to myself in general, um, but I definitely felt the need to perform and kind of be at my best level in soccer, or at least knew I was really important to stay out, not be afraid of all that. Basically, like our kind of space for everyone, but make that. Just like on a more casual note, like you were such a talented soccer player, an athlete, and just all the things that you're doing in the community. But thinking about like when you were growing up, and all the work that you put into being a soccer player, what else were you doing outside of soccer and outside of school that really brought you joy, happiness, and balance, all of the work that you were doing right now?
Yeah, I think I did a lot as a child. And again, some of these things people don't associate typically with blackness. So that was, while I was able to get enjoyment out of it, that was definitely another source of strain with some of my relationships. So I played the piano, I played the viola in middle school. Don't ask me how I got to both of those instruments. They just kind of, I got funneled down that path and ran
Yeah.
with it. And, you know, within, especially within orchestra, which again is not a traditional, would not be seen as a traditional space for black people, especially in Montgomery County. I found a community of people that resonated with me, whether it was the athletes or just people that I got along with. So I stuck it out for 3 years. And the piano, I definitely enjoyed a lot more. It was a really calming presence up until recitals, which were the most stressful times of my life. More stressful than any soccer tournament I ever took part in. But just being able to play music, play freely, and really distract myself in a similar way to what soccer did. Piano did that for me as well. I was a really competitive swimmer. I was probably swimming 5 times a week by 8th grade, and competing with guys who ended up going to Olympic trials, as well as, yeah, got some medals in the Olympics. So it was a tough track to keep up with once I really committed to soccer. And I like to take pride in my basketball ability, but besides getting rebound and second chance opportunities, I probably wasn't very good there.
I'm sure you're. The swimming is so impressive. Did you ever swim with like Jack Conger, those guys that went to?
So I never swam with him, but we were in the same association. So the club is called
Oh,
RMSC, and they have a lot of different branches within Montgomery County. And the swimming community is small, so whether you're actually swimming with on a daily basis or you're joining for a regional tournament or whatever it might be, you're in and around the same people, racing against the same people. I think he was a couple years older than me, but for example, Katie Ledecky was
yeah,
in a rival, I think it was a rival team, but for like the regional team, kind of similar to ODP in Region 1, when
right.
we would go up to Region 1, we were all part of the same cluster with a big group of swimmers. So
That's so crazy. I love how, like, the athletic community is so small, the Black athletic community. Or yeah, went that fast for a second. Um, yeah, thank you for.
I lost you a little bit on that sound.
I was just talking about how cool it is that our community's so small, and
Oh
we
yeah,
were kind of meet each other, even though we lived in the same area. We didn't meet each other until later in life, but we still have all these like similar.
I know. Yeah, that's just athletics, right? And especially in the neighborhoods and cities that we are, and in our sport. I mean, I remember actually going to a tournament, a regional tournament with your team. I want to say when we were like U15,
Yes,
and
I do remember
I
that.
can't remember if it was in Pennsylvania or West Virginia, but uh,
Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
yeah, exactly. And through our mutual friend Carter, you know, you know how little kids are. They always try to play whatever little kid tag and pretending like they're talking to the other people. But yeah, it's funny how we found our way together at Duke.
Yeah, but I want to talk a little bit more about you. You were there for 2 years, correct?
Yeah,
Freshman,
or a
sophomore,
year and a half. Yeah,
year and a half. Yeah. Um, you had you did a phenomenal job there, like making an impact there, and then especially being able to go from Duke into a professional career and kind of making your own path. Like that was really something that I hadn't seen before, and even though it was, I feel like it's more common on the for girls to skip college or like um, go for a couple of years. So I'm curious, what was that experience like for you in terms of being why you wanted to go to college and what was kind of want to start that program.
yeah. First of all, I hope that the women's game continues to grow to a point where more and more young women, young girls, can see a viable path to economic stability without feeling the need to always go through college. Like if people want to go 4 years of college, that's their decision, and that's awesome because there's so many different things that college introduces you to, and different pathways that it opens people to. But what like pains me is seeing young girls not have that option, not say, hey, this is all I want to do in life. I want to be the best I can be. I want to get to this professional environment, but then look at the salaries and they say, doesn't make sense. I can always make it to that level, but with a better safety net if things don't work out. So I think there's a long way to go, and hopefully, through the Women's World Cup in 2019 and through continued increase in ratings across women's sports, investors are looking at that and are working towards improving the economic viability of individuals. But for me, I always wanted to go pro at a young age, and at 15, I had the opportunity to do so by going to England, but different passports, immigration regulations made it that it was really hard to go. So the next phase of the thinking was, how do I maximize going to school so that I do get that base level education, something I can always come back to, but I still maintain really high, elevated standards of soccer. And so that's what brought me to Duke. I mean, looking at our freshman class, we had such a talented group that unfortunately, for one reason or another, didn't quite make it to the level that they maybe had hoped coming in as freshmen, but the talent was there, the competitiveness was there. But once they got to my sophomore year, I realized that when I'm looking at youth World Cups, and the U20 World Cup was on the horizon, not a lot of college players make it to that World Cup. I think my team ended up having maybe 3 or 4, and 2 of them were goalies. So a year and a half before that, I said, the best way to make that team is going to be a pro. So that's kind of how I decided to, that's how I validated my decision to make the jump really early. I took a super unconventional path where I signed before my junior season. So I ended up spending my junior season playing with USL teams. And then after that fall, I entered the draft and have been in Portland for the last 4 years. Lots of ups and downs, but to make it to my 5th year, having gotten a new contract last year is a testament to both the reciprocal nature in which we have the symbiotic nature of our relationship here in Portland, where we've both benefited from this partnership and we both believe that it can go another level.
Yeah, I like what you said about curious as to when you're talking about your journey has had ups and downs, and um, I think if you could elaborate a bit more on what you feel like has kind of helped you through those ups and downs, and what it is necessarily that you feel like helped you push through. It's been imperative for me to learn how to balance, have that work balance, and then the rest of the game, um, having a life outside of it helped me learn to be passionate about soccer. But there, I feel like good people,
Yeah, I lost you a little bit at the end, but as far as getting through those tough periods and those downs, uh, it's really been about finding power in routine. When things weren't going well in 2018, there'd been a lot of people in my ears who said, "Hey, you don't want to be one of those guys that leaves college early. You don't want to take a nice contract as a 19-year-old, but then be out of the league in 2.5 years." Because there's been so many lessons, right? There's been so many people that I looked to that I thought were untouchable and didn't even make a dent in this league. So in 2018, I'm not even making the bench, or I'm not even making the starting lineup for the reserve team. So we're talking about the first team in MLS. I'm not even making the starting lineup for the second team, which is really 20 to 24-year-olds largely. And I'm really starting to think, like, am I cut out for this, or am I just going to be another lesson to the youth? And it was really tough, but again, I found power through routine. I found power through coming in early, getting my body right, knowing that I had an hour to an hour and a half every day to really impress the coaches, really get what I needed to get physically and technically out of training, and just working as hard as I could, but as efficiently as I could as well. Also, being mindful that whatever emotions I have coming into training, whatever frustration about who's playing ahead of me, whatever frustration about not getting a chance, I was going to put that aside for that 3 hour, 4 hour spell that I was at the training facility.
yeah,
Once I finished my work, once everyone saw that I did the work and it went well, whatever. Sometimes it didn't go as well as I would have liked, but once I finished that, I would go home and then I would let the emotions kind of seep in, and I would allow them to come in and go out, because what I learned was bottling them up just made me a lot worse of a person and a player. So for me, that meant finding music that calmed me down, that allowed me to process and visualize what was wrong, but how I was going to get better. Making sure that I didn't get too caught up with, okay, well, I'm not starting this weekend, and I'm not even on the bench this weekend, and I'm not starting for the second team. So that means that X player is going to overtake me. That means that X player all the way across the country is going to do X, and just this spiral of negative that just really harm the mental self-esteem of a player. I stopped those, and it's a lot easier said than done to maintain the consistency, but I was able to really maintain my thoughts on what was going on presently and not how that would affect other things. And
yeah,
one thing that was really helpful with that was doing yoga. That helped me with my body, but it also just helped me slow things down. Listening to a voice kind of guiding me through a meditation. Little by little, after 3 months of that, my chance did come eventually in a circumstance that I wasn't really expecting. Like 3 or 4 guys ahead of me were, for some reason, unavailable when they should have been. And I took it. I was really mentally ready to take it. I took it. I was in and out of the lineup with the starting team throughout the end of the year, but when my second chance came, I took that too. And yeah, I ended up starting all the way through to MLS Cup, which humbled me again. But the older I get, the more ready I am to deal with some of these downturns in form, some of the stresses off the field as well. It's a learning process, but hopefully one that's getting better and more manageable.
definitely. We're all been there, but you're incorporate that. That's really exciting. I, everybody doing that, and that is that. You mentioned how artists or haven't off the top of your head like go to out turn out for artists and that kind of help get that.
Mm. Yeah, I it kind of changed from time to time, but music wise, it was really kind of songs that were calm. It was like lyrical hip hop, whether it was things that would portray stories of struggle and bouncing back from those stories of struggle. Those were things that I resonated with deeply, even if they weren't athletes, rapping their struggle, right? It was, someone just rapping their life and what was going on there. So other times it was just noise, honestly, noise to guide me through a restful period. But it's different for everyone, right? And I'm trying to figure out what works for me now. It's not quite the same as when I was 20 in 2018, but there's little things that adjust, and it's the same principles: staying calm, letting emotions come, and letting them manifest themselves, and then attacking them once you're ready to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that like I definitely take it like mind.
I'm losing you on sound a little bit.
Oh,
Talk?
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I was just talking about how cool it is, I think, that you started doing yoga and how I feel like it's not often that you're when Black people are talking about mental issues. And
Lost you again.
okay, okay.
But every time I say I lost you, I get you again.
You get me again?
Yeah,
Okay.
is your phone like on something?
Here. Can you hear it now?
Yeah, it might
Okay.
be something might be blocking the mic.
Okay. Let me know. People just keep commenting if you can't hear me.
Yeah,
So that
you're much clearer now.
all right. Um, I wanted to kind of hear where you initially got the idea to do yoga because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
mental like wellness and mental health isn't as discussed in the Black community, and that's something that I feel like um, needs to be more easily accessible to so many people in the Black community. Learning about emotional intelligence and how to kind of regulate our emotions, I feel like is something that we don't talk about enough in the Black community.
I don't know where I always kind of did yoga. I remember one of my coaches when I was younger. He always told me Ryan Giggs did yoga every day, and that's how he made it to a really long career. And I don't know if that was an urban legend or if that was the truth, but um, it the practice of yoga for physical release through stretching and that kind of thing, and strengthening and core stability. That was kind of my early practices when I was like 16 to 20. But
Yeah,
then for whatever reason, I found a studio right down the street from me, and I was able to go in and see what their classes were like. And I really took a liking to hot yoga, in particular. And I tried out a bunch of different teachers, and just some of them really, from the mental aspect of things, they really allowed me to channel in the negative energy that I was bringing it, and kind of loosen it up a little bit. So
yeah,
I encourage a lot of people to try it. It's not going to work for everyone, but for me, it's better than just sitting, doing nothing, and meditating. Right? I just find a little more purpose through flowing, even if that's at a very gentle speed. But it allows me to connect my breath to my
yeah,
mind and to my body, and it's what I need at the moment. And
yeah,
it's something that I really suffered from throughout 2020, just knowing that all these indoor studios were closed. Wasn't able to find that routine, find that yoga place of calm, of peace, and trying to recreate that in my apartment like so many other people did in this country. It
yeah,
just wasn't the same. didn't have the same effects, but it's just part of last year. Just another little negative that I'm looking forward to getting back in routine on.
I couldn't agree more. Soon enough. Hopefully, we're all vaccinated soon. Goodness gracious.
I know.
Um, but I don't want to keep everybody for too long. So, these last couple of minutes, I want to ask you about the BBC. But as I'm doing that, send in a couple of questions that you want Evo um, to answer. But firstly, I want to kind of chat about the BPC and what the BWPC are doing together, and your involvement as a board member with the BPC. First and foremost, I firstly want to encourage everybody to read this article that you wrote. Do you remember you put this in our group meet last year? It was an article you published in Medium. It's not meant for your comfort.
Yeah.
I just want to read the first paragraph of that first because I think it really sums up the initial feelings as it was as a Black athlete having a platform and seeing what happened last summer, and kind of the spark that we've needed in this country to hold people accountable and to continue doing the work that we're doing right now, to continue having the hard conversations and stay alert and being ready to tackle institutional racism. So for those who don't know, the article that Jeremy wrote was "It's Not Meant for Your Comfort." And I just want to share the first paragraph because I think it really captures how it felt in that moment. And so Jeremy writes, this past week has been a never-ending spiral. I type and erase, I retype and erase. I sit on my keyboard for hours debating what I should say, if there's something for me to say, or if people are ready for me to be less filtered. I wonder, what is this post for? Who is it for? And will it be heard, or will it be co-opted and diluted? As I've learned, watching the activists that inspire me spar in the Twitter sphere, reception to advocacy is oftentimes contingent on being comfortable for the listener. So in the end, I close my computer, I rate at my inability to formulate words, and restart the process day after day. It's a cycle of monotony, predicted on my fear of not being heard, my fear of throwing away the carefully curated persona of my social feed, but more importantly, my fear of not being true to myself in what I want you to read. So many people have been reaching out to their closest Black friends, asking how we feel, asking what they can do, or apologizing for the state of this country. I can't speak for everyone, but the best I can do is give my thoughts. That really spoke to me because that was exactly how I was feeling in that moment, like 100% exactly how I felt. And then so thinking about that and where we were, and kind of you imploring people to stay continuously involved because we're so used to this cycle of violence and people caring and then stopping to care. How does it feel to have the BPC and for us, the BWPC now, to be able to continue these conversations and this work in this community to hopefully get people and have people remain involved in these in this commitment kind of to social justice?
Yeah, I think first of all, what you said, that how you resonated with it, I know that a lot of my other friends resonated with it at all because we've been through this so many times, right? Trying to like crying for help from other people and always being told that you're being dramatic, you are overplaying the situation, he or she probably did something, etc. And so I specifically sent it to our group me, which included the men and women's team at Duke, because I know that there are some people that we went to school with on a regular basis who perpetuated those stereotypes, or worse, just completely gaslighted our experience and what we're seeing on a regular basis. So I'd hope that they had reached a point of inflection where they were like, maybe I've been wrong. Maybe I've been brought up in a way that wasn't receptive to what was actually going on. But now finding the BPC, I mean, it's really allowed me to find a community of similarly minded individuals who previously have been fighting this battle on their own. And now we know that we have each other, we're together. And when we're together, we can capture so many different audiences. We can capture so many brands that perhaps didn't feel like they can invest in one person doing the work, but when you see a collective of people, they feel a lot more comfortable doing that. It's the same thing with your group. You all have banded together, and our collaborative work is getting so much attention across this country and frankly across the world too. And it's reminding people that there are leaders in this sphere. It's not always going to be us, but we know who to contact in order to get the work that we want to get done. Both our leagues have a lot of work to do, and we're in this fight for the long haul. That's also what these separate but adjacent collectives are. It's a reminder to the powers that be that this isn't a phase. We're here, we're stable, and we're growing.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't have said it better. I really like this question that came in. How much resistance do you feel like you we get from being yourself while being professional athletes? So I guess if I can sum it up, do you feel like you need to balance being your true self and sharing your true opinions concerning a lot of these issues, um, while also being kind of in this public persona?
Yeah, I think early on I was a young player, not getting any playing time, and still trying to tackle a lot of these issues. And I was being warned by a number of people, like, hey, you may want to potentially not speak up as much as you are, or find a way to refine your message. Don't attack people. And I would look back on my tweets, and I'm like, I'm not even attacking anyone. If
Yeah,
people feel attacked, it's because they are perpetuating the systemic inequities that we're trying to tackle. Um, as I've grown older, and frankly, being in Portland helps because I have a lot more support here from the city. Uh, I've been able to speak a little bit more and more freely, and the evolution for myself has gone from talking about issues and educating to calling people to action, whether it's through little initiatives here and there, or whether it's through, in the future, projects that we do together and separately.
yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. We've gone for a while, and I think this has been a great conversation. Hopefully, everybody has really benefited from it. Thank you, Jeremy, so much for taking some time out of your super busy schedule to chat with me. It's always good to catch up with you. Um, for everyone who's watching right now, I know you're following the Black Women's Players Collective, but be sure to follow BPC, follow Jeremy on social media. There's lots of projects that we're working on together and individually that are really important. And yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to stay involved and keep listening and hearing Black stories and Black experiences. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Jeremy, for being here. Miss you. Hopefully, I can see you soon in person. But if not, have an amazing season. Keep killing it. Always following you and cheering for you. And wishing for the best for you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, Imani, and hopefully things get back to some sort of normal. And um, I'll see you in Portland, hopefully, when you play the Thorns. But
Yes,
I won't know who I'm rooting for, but I'll be rooting for you as an individual.
I can take that. I will settle for that. It's great to see you, Jeremy. All right, take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Night.